7 years of love, 3 years of marriage, all came crashing down because of a photo smaller than the palm of my hand. That night, perhaps, was destiny's cruel design for my life. I didn't cry, didn't scream, didn't make a scene. I just quietly did something that, even now, when I think back, I still don't understand how I could have been so calm. The soothing music of New York's most luxurious restaurant still echoed in my ears. The aroma of fine wine and the steak we had just enjoyed seemed to linger on my tongue. I sat in the passenger seat, leaning my head against the car window, watching the streetlights blur past like streaks of shooting stars. Beside me, Michael, the husband I loved with all my being, was driving. One hand rested on the steering wheel, the other gently held mine. Our fingers intertwined, his warmth familiar and surprisingly comforting. "Are you tired?" He turned to me, his voice deep and tender as always. "You look beautiful tonight, Chloe." I smiled, a contented smile from the bottom of my heart. "I'm so happy. Thank you for everything, my love." Our 3-year anniversary was wonderful, and it wasn't a lie. Everything had been perfect. He had secretly booked a restaurant I adored, prepared a bouquet of long-stemmed crimson roses, and a gift I had long coveted, a luxury watch, a limited edition I had only casually mentioned once. 3 years as his wife, 7 years by his side. Not a single moment of regret. I, Chloe Anderson, 28, had a successful career, having inherited and expanded my father's pharmaceutical company, Evergreen Pharmaceuticals. I had a talented husband who loved me dearly. I thought I was the happiest woman in the world. The car pulled into the underground garage of our upscale condo building. Michael walked around to open the car door for me, a gentlemanly gesture he never forgot. He gently kissed my forehead. "You go on up. I have a call from a client. I might be down here a little longer." "Okay, don't work too late." I stood on my tiptoes, kissed his cheek, and then turned to step into the elevator. Our apartment was on the 25th floor, with a balcony overlooking the city lights at night. Everything inside was neat and clean, thanks to our hourly housekeeper. I placed the bouquet in a vase, took off my high heels, and the fatigue of a long day began to set in. I intended to take a shower but felt thirsty. As I walked past the sofa where Michael often sat, I noticed his leather wallet left on the table. He must have forgotten it when he rushed to answer the phone. I picked up the wallet, intending to put it away in his drawer. This wallet was a gift from me to him for his birthday last year. A thought suddenly flashed through my mind. Had I ever looked inside my husband's wallet? Never once. I trusted him absolutely. I believed that respecting each other's privacy was essential in marriage. But today, for some reason, a childish curiosity surged within me. Perhaps it was the slight buzz from the wine, or perhaps it was a woman's intuition. I laughed at my own thoughts. Surely, his wallet would only contain cash, credit cards, his driver's license, and perhaps a photo of me. I sat down on the sofa and slowly opened the wallet. Just as I thought, the first compartment held a few platinum credit cards. The next held a stack of $100 bills. I flipped to the compartment for documents, his driver's license, his Evergreen Pharmaceuticals employee ID, and then my heart skipped a beat. Tucked behind his driver's license was a small, carefully hidden photo, but it wasn't a photo of me. My entire body froze. The photo was a Polaroid, giving it a somewhat nostalgic feel. In the picture, Michael was in some unfamiliar hotel room. He wasn't wearing a shirt, revealing the muscular physique I was so proud of. He was smiling, a radiant, happy smile, and in his arms, her head resting on his bare chest, was a woman. That woman was also smiling, a flirtatious, possessive smile. She wore a flimsy nightgown, her long hair cascading over my husband's shoulder. And that face, a face I couldn't possibly mistake, was Jessica Davis, my best friend. My world shattered around me. My ears buzzed, no longer hearing the soft music playing in the room. Everything blurred before my eyes, leaving only the smiles of those two people, sharp and agonizing, like a knife plunging straight into my heart. Jessica Davis, the friend who had shared my difficult college years, the person I trusted so much that I invited her to be head of research and development for my company, the one I confided in about all my joys and sorrows, even the most intimate secrets between my husband and me. A sharp pain shot through my chest, and a wave of nausea rose in my throat. I clamped my hand over my mouth, trying to suppress any sob. Why? Why them? My most beloved husband and my most trusted friend. How long had they been together? What had they been doing behind my back? Michael's business trips, Jessica's excuses about being busy and unable to hang out with me. All the scattered pieces suddenly linked together, forming a disgusting picture of betrayal. I looked at the photo again. They looked so happy, so perfect together. Michael's smile with her was a smile I hadn't seen in a very long time. Had his love for me died long ago, leaving only pretense? And in their eyes, perhaps I was just a pitiful fool, a stepping stone for them to gain position and money. A hot tear rolled down my cheek, then 2, then 3, but that was all. The shock and extreme pain quickly subsided, giving way to a chilling coldness that enveloped my entire being. I didn't scream, didn't smash anything. I just sat there, silently staring at the photo. I looked for a long, long time, as if wanting to engrave their true faces into my very bones. I didn't cry anymore. Tears were a luxury and utterly useless now. I calmly took out my phone and took several photos of the picture from different angles, ensuring the clearest possible shots. Then, I carefully placed the photo back in its original position in the wallet and returned the wallet to its spot on the table without the slightest deviation. I stood up and walked into the bathroom, filled the tub with cold water, and submerged myself. The bone-chilling cold made my mind unusually clear. Confront them? Make a scene? Only to receive fake apologies, empty promises, and then they would resume their clandestine affair even more carefully. No, this Chloe wouldn't do anything so foolish. I wouldn't give them a chance to deny, nor a chance to prepare. They had made me a fool. Now I would show them how terrifying this fool could be when angered. I stepped out of the bath and dried myself. I looked in the mirror. The woman staring back had red-rimmed eyes, but her gaze was as sharp as a knife. I wouldn't divorce him immediately. I wouldn't let them achieve their goal so easily. I would make them pay. A very high price, a price they would never forget for the rest of their lives. I returned to the living room and picked up my car keys. It was almost 1 a.m., but there was still a place open. It was a 24/7 copy and print shop. Tomorrow morning, when the sun rose, when Michael and Jessica were still dreaming of a beautiful future obtained through deceit, they would receive a surprise gift. Tomorrow morning, there would be a sudden downpour at Evergreen Pharmaceuticals. A rain not of water, but of the cruelest and most humiliating truth. My story had only just begun. If you want to know what I did next, if you want to join me on this journey for justice, please subscribe to Echoes of the Past and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next part. My car sped through the night, leaving behind the luxurious condo building I once thought was my home. The city at late night was deserted, the streetlights reflected in the car window like unshed tears. But I didn't cry. My heart was cold, hardened like a block of ice. In my mind, there was only one clear and sharp goal. The print shop was located on a small side street, brightly lit 24/7. The air inside was thick, with the lifeless, steady hum of the printing machines and the smell of ink. The sleepy young employee looked at me with a hint of surprise, seeing an elegantly dressed woman appear at almost 2 a.m. "What can I print for you, ma'am?" I didn't say much, just silently handed him my phone. The photo I had taken appeared clearly on the screen, my husband's happy face and my best friend's. "Print this for me. In color, on the best photo paper. Print 500 copies." The employee's eyes widened. He looked at me, then at the picture, his gaze a mixture of apprehension and curiosity. Perhaps he was wondering about the story behind this strange request, but that wasn't his business. He simply nodded silently, took the image file, and began his work. I sat on a cold plastic chair in the corner of the room, watching the industrial printer at work. Sheet after sheet of photos came out, regularly, mercilessly. The faces of those two people, their smiles, their intimacy, reproduced hundreds of times, spread across the large table. With each photo printed, my heart grew colder. The pain was still there, smoldering like a deep burn. But it no longer made me collapse. It was transforming into something else, a dark and cold power. I paid a considerable sum for 500 high-quality photos. I didn't hesitate for a moment. This was my most worthwhile investment tonight. The employee carefully stacked the photos into a large cardboard box. I hugged the box to my car, feeling as if I was holding a box of ashes. The ashes of love, of trust, of 3 years of marriage I had wholeheartedly nurtured. That night, I didn't go home. I drove to a hotel near the company and rented a room. I didn't sleep. I placed the cardboard box on the table and took out a photo. Under the dim yellow light of the hotel room, Michael and Jessica's smiles looked even more glaring, even more fake. What did I do wrong? Was I not good enough? Not loving enough? Or not trusting enough of her? No, I did nothing wrong. They are the ones who are wrong. They are the betrayers. I sat by the window, looking down at the deserted street below. I had once thought that if I ever discovered this, I would go mad, scream, confront them. But no, my calmness now frightened even myself. Perhaps when pain surpasses a certain threshold, tears can no longer fall, and the heart no longer knows how to ache. Instead, there is only emptiness and a singular desire for justice. I looked at the clock, 4 a.m., 5 a.m. As the first rays of the new day began to filter through the blinds, I stood up. I changed into a black business dress and applied meticulous makeup to conceal the dark circles under my eyes from staying awake all night. I looked at myself in the mirror, a completely different Chloe. Still the same face, but the eyes no longer held the gentle innocence of yesterday. They were sharp and resolute. At exactly 6:30, I drove to Evergreen Pharmaceuticals. The 30-story building, towering in the city center, was my father's lifelong dedication. And now, it was my battlefield. At this hour, the company only had a few cleaning staff and the security team. They all knew I was the CEO, the owner of this place, so they simply bowed their heads in greeting without asking questions. I carried the cardboard box into the main lobby. The company lobby was elegantly designed with polished marble floors and a small decorative fountain in the center. This was the face of Evergreen Pharmaceuticals, the first place all employees and partners would enter. I set the box down, took a deep breath, and then opened it. I didn't throw, nor did I place. I used both hands to scoop up handfuls of photos and toss them high into the air, right under the building's skylight. Hundreds of photos, like poisonous butterflies, spun and then gently floated down. They fluttered everywhere, covering the marble floor, falling into the fountain, resting on the leather waiting chairs. The entire grand lobby, in just a moment, had transformed into an exhibition of betrayal. I stood amidst that rain of photos, silently observing my handiwork. Michael and Jessica's faces were everywhere, grinning brazenly in this luxurious space. A chilling satisfaction ran down my spine. This was just the prelude. Finished with my task, I didn't linger. I calmly walked into the executive elevator and went straight up to my office on the top floor. My office had a large glass wall overlooking the main lobby. This was my private fortress, a place where I could observe everything without being seen. I brewed a cup of black coffee, no sugar, and stood by the window, waiting. At 7:30, employees began to arrive. The first person to step into the lobby was a young intern. She stopped short, her eyes wide, staring at the scene before her. She bent down to pick up a photo, and I saw her face turn pale. She quickly dropped the photo as if it burned her hand. Then the third person entered. The initial surprise quickly turned into whispers and murmurs. The crowd gradually gathered. They picked up photos to examine, they pointed, they whispered to each other. Phones were pulled out, photos began to be taken, and perhaps sent to company group chats. The storm of rumors began to spread at an alarming rate. The head of sales and the head of R&D, two talented and respected individuals, role models for the entire company, had apparently been having an illicit affair behind the back of their esteemed female CEO. The play was starting to get interesting. I took a sip of coffee, its bitter taste spreading in my mouth. I was still waiting for my two main actors to appear. And then I saw it. Michael's familiar black Mercedes pulled into the VIP parking lot. The car door opened, and he stepped out, still in his impeccably tailored suit, looking as dashing as ever. But right after, a white Mazda stopped right beside it. Jessica stepped out of that car, wearing a fitted red dress today, looking incredibly alluring. They had come to work together. They stood talking for a few moments in the parking lot, laughing happily, completely unaware of the storm awaiting them. Just a few steps away, they walked together toward the main entrance. My play was about to have its most honored audience, and I was eager to see how they would continue their act once they walked through that door. From my office on the 30th floor, through the transparent reinforced glass, I could clearly see their every move. Michael and Jessica walked side by side. They maintained a polite distance, enough to appear as normal colleagues. But their eyes occasionally exchanged knowing glances, glances only those caught in a secret affair possess. They were still smiling, the smug smiles of those who held both love and career in their hands. A career built on my very trust. The moment the main lobby's automatic glass doors slid open, the smiles on their faces froze. I saw Michael falter, his eyes wide, scanning the lobby. Surprise quickly turned into bewilderment, then to extreme panic. Jessica's face went from flushed red to ghostly pale. She instinctively recoiled a step, covering her mouth, her eyes darting around as if searching for an escape. The whispers of the employee crowd suddenly fell silent. All eyes were now on the two main characters who had just appeared. The atmosphere grew thick and suffocating. I could imagine their hearts pounding wildly in their chests. Their usual confidence and composure had vanished, leaving only confusion and humiliation exposed before hundreds of eyes. Michael regained his composure first. True to a sales executive, his crisis management skills were quick. He didn't flee, didn't scream. Instead, he rushed forward, frantically picking up the photos scattered on the floor. He picked them up like a madman, clutching them to his chest as if that could hide the truth. Jessica, after a few seconds of frozen silence, also understood. She quickly ran to help. The two high-ranking and influential individuals in the company were now bending, heads bowed, collecting pieces of evidence of their own wrongdoing in the main lobby before the eyes of all the employees. A truly ironic and pathetic sight. "Who did this?" I heard Michael roar, his voice no longer deep but hoarse with anger and fear. No one answered. The crowd just stood watching. Some turned away in awkwardness, others gloated, pretending to check their phones but actually discreetly recording. I knew that in just a few minutes, this great play would spread across all internal forums. They couldn't pick everything up. Photos were everywhere, some even floating in the fountain. Jessica seemed unable to bear it anymore. She slumped to the floor, covering her face with her hands, sobbing uncontrollably, her tears belated and fake. Michael looked at her, then at the surrounding crowd, and a decisive glint appeared in his eyes. He pulled Jessica to her feet, leaned close to her ear, and whispered something. I guessed he was instructing her on how to continue her act. And then he lifted his head, looked directly at the crowd, and spoke, trying to regain his composure. "Everyone, please calm down. This is just a misunderstanding. Someone is intentionally trying to harm us, to tarnish the company's reputation. I demand that everyone return to their workstations immediately. No gossiping, no spreading these images. Anyone who violates this will face severe disciplinary action." His words still carried weight. The employees began to disperse, though curious glances and whispers didn't cease. At that moment, I decided it was time for me to appear. The executive elevator door slowly opened. I stepped out, still in my black dress, my face devoid of emotion. My appearance halted all activity in the lobby once again. Everyone, including Michael and Jessica, turned to look at me. For a moment, my eyes met Michael's. In his eyes, I saw extreme panic, guilt, and even a plea. He mouthed something, trying to speak, but no words came out. I didn't look at him, nor did I look at Jessica. I just slowly walked forward, my gaze sweeping over the photos still scattered on the floor. I bent down and picked one up. The photo was very clear, very beautiful. I looked at it for a long moment, then raised my head to look at Michael. What is this, Michael?" My voice was trembling, weak. The words, "What is this?" sounded like they were about to shatter. And then I did something no one could have expected. I slowly crumpled. The photo slipped from my hand. My entire body went limp, falling forward. "Chloe!" Michael's panicked shout rang out. He rushed forward, just managing to catch me before I hit the cold marble floor. He held me in his arms, calling my name in genuine panic. "Chloe, wake up. Don't scare me." I closed my eyes tightly, letting my body go completely limp in his arms. My play had officially begun, with me in the role of a pathetic wife, shocked into unconsciousness upon discovering the cruel truth. The crowd stirred once again, this time with worried gasps. The CEO fainted. "Call an ambulance!" Michael scooped me up. The strength of fear made him act quickly. He didn't call an ambulance. He knew that calling an ambulance would only make things more public. He carried me, running straight towards the executive elevator, shouting to the crowd, "Everyone, clear the way! I'll take her to the resting room." Jessica stood there, frozen, watching us, her face pale, full of guilt and fear. Perhaps in her heart, there was still a shred of friendship for me, or perhaps she was just scared for her own future. I lay in Michael's arms, feeling his heart pounding wildly. I subtly opened my eyes and saw his face very close, a face contorted with worry. Was he worried about me or about his career? In the elevator, he kept calling my name, gently slapping my cheeks. "Chloe, wake up please, it's not what you think." I kept my eyes closed. I wanted to see how he would continue his act when it was just the two of us. The elevator doors opened on the 30th floor. He carried me through the hallway, pushed open my office door, and gently placed me on the plush sofa. I knew the real confrontation, the play within a play, was about to begin, and I was ready for my performance of a lifetime. I felt myself being gently placed on the familiar sofa. The scent of high-end leather and a faint lemongrass essential oil hung in the air. These things I had chosen to create a relaxing workspace now made me feel suffocated. I kept my eyes tightly shut, my eyelashes trembling slightly, playing the role of a woman just regaining consciousness after a shock. I heard Michael's hurried footsteps, the clinking of cups and saucers. A moment later, a cool towel was gently placed on my forehead. "Chloe, you're awake? Drink some warm water." His voice was anxious and regretful. I slowly opened my eyes, my gaze hazy and unfocused. I looked at him, then around the room, as if still trying to comprehend what had happened. "Michael, what happened? I don't remember anything." Michael let out a sigh of relief. Perhaps he thought the shock had made me temporarily forget everything. He quickly helped me sit up, bringing the glass of water to my lips. "It's nothing, honey. Your blood pressure just dropped, and you fainted. You've probably been working too hard lately." He was trying to cover up the truth. A blatant lie. I took a small sip of water, and then my eyes inadvertently landed on a photo still lying on the floor near my desk. The photo I had intentionally let fall from my hand when I fainted. Memories seemed to flood back. My face turned pale. I pointed at the photo, my voice trembling. That photo," Michael started, following my gaze, his face turning pale. He knew he couldn't hide it anymore. The second act of the play began. He quickly knelt beside the sofa, taking my hands. His usually handsome and refined face was now contorted with pain and remorse. "Chloe, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. It's not what you think. Please, let me explain." I remained silent, just looking at him, my eyes filled with tears, full of hurt and confusion. I wanted to see what kind of story he would invent. It was Jessica who set me up," he said, his voice full of indignation. "That day, the company had a party, and I drank a little too much. She said there was an important matter about a new project we needed to discuss, so she took me to her hotel room. I was too drunk to know anything. When I woke up, it was too late. This photo was also taken by her secretly to blackmail me. She was jealous of our happiness. She wanted to destroy our family. A perfect story. He was the victim, a pitiful husband entrapped by a conniving, manipulative female colleague. All the blame was placed on Jessica, and he, out of immense love for his wife, fearing I would be hurt, had silently endured it alone. So noble, so admirable. If it were the Chloe of yesterday, I might have believed him, but the Chloe of today only found it laughable. His acting was truly superb, no less than any Oscar-winning actor. I looked at him, tears beginning to stream down my cheeks. "Really? Is that true, Michael? Why would Jessica do that to me? I sobbed, burying my head in his shoulder. My portrayal of a pitiful, gullible wife was also quite good. Michael, seeing that I seemed to believe him, quickly hugged me tighter, his voice becoming even more earnest. It's my fault. It's all my fault. Don't blame yourself. I was just afraid you'd worry and it would affect your health. I intended to resolve things with her completely before telling you. I never imagined she would be so despicable. Chloe, can you forgive me? I swear, I only love you. You are the only one in my life. He uttered sweet vows, words that would soften any woman's heart. I continued to cry, my shoulders shaking in his arms, but in that buried face, no one could see how cold my eyes were. His lie had a few cracks. If Jessica used that photo to blackmail him, why would he keep it so carefully in his wallet? He should have destroyed it. And if he was too drunk to know anything, why was his smile in the photo so radiant and happy? But I didn't expose him. The play had to continue. After a period of crying, I looked up, my eyes red-rimmed at him. Michael, are you telling me the truth? You're not deceiving me, are you? I swear on my life. Then, what about Jessica? How am I supposed to face her? You don't have to do anything, Michael said, his voice hardening. I'll handle her. Tomorrow, I'll make her resign and get out of this company. I won't let her have another chance to hurt you. He spoke with conviction. Resign so quickly? My intuition told me something was wrong, but I didn't ask further. I just nodded, leaning on his shoulder. Then that's good. I don't want to see her again. Don't worry. From now on, no one will be able to come between us. He tightened his embrace. That night, Michael stayed late at the office with me. He was incredibly attentive, taking care of my every need. The new Mont Blanc pen was prominently clipped to his suit jacket pocket. Occasionally, he would take it out, admire it, and sign a few sample words. He had no idea that my third eye was silently recording everything, waiting for the moment he and his accomplice would expose their true selves. I knew their play wasn't over yet, and this pen would be my ticket to the most honored audience seat, to watch what further deceptive acts they would perform behind my back. In the days that followed, my life seemed to return to normal, at least on the surface. Michael acted the part of a perfectly repentant husband. He went to work on time, came home on time, no more secret phone calls or late-night client meetings. He paid more attention to me, often buying small gifts and cooking my favorite meals. He performed a play of reconciliation, of a marriage saved after a storm. And I played my part well too. I was a forgiving wife who had completely believed in her husband's repentance. I laughed and chatted cheerfully, watched movies with him, had dinner with him. I no longer brought up the past, no longer showed suspicion. Our apartment was once again filled with laughter, a chillingly fake kind of laughter. As for Jessica, just as Michael had said, she disappeared. The morning after the photo incident, her desk had been cleared. HR announced she had resigned abruptly for personal reasons. Everyone in the company still whispered and gossiped, but no one dared to speak openly. They only looked at me with a mixture of pity and a hint of awe. They thought I, the female CEO, had swiftly dealt with the other woman. They had no idea I was merely an unwilling audience member. But I didn't believe things were that simple. Someone as intelligent and ambitious as Jessica wouldn't easily give up her head of R&D position, a position she had worked so hard to achieve, just because of a love scandal. And Michael, if he genuinely wanted to break it off, could have fired her immediately, without needing her to voluntarily resign. This silent departure felt more like a calculated retreat than a punishment. The Mont Blanc pen still sat prominently clipped to Michael's jacket pocket every day. He loved it, treating it as a symbol of power and also of my forgiveness. He had no idea it was acting like a loyal chip, silently recording every sound, every conversation he had. 3 days. I had waited patiently for 3 days. I knew I couldn't retrieve the pen too soon. It would arouse suspicion. I had to wait for the perfect moment. And the opportunity came on the evening of the 3rd day. Michael said he had an important client meeting at a golf club. He came home, showered, changed into sportswear, and then rushed out. But in his haste, he left his suit jacket, with the pen clipped inside, on the sofa. I waited until the sound of his car had completely faded before I hurried to it. My heart pounded. I tremblingly pulled out the pen and plugged it into my laptop via a special cable. An audio folder appeared, containing dozens of recordings named by date and time. I put on my headphones, took a deep breath, and clicked on the first recording, made right after I had given him the pen. Initially, it was just ambient sounds, rustling papers, the click of a keyboard. Then I heard his office door open. "You can come in now?" Michael's voice. "Aren't you going to close the door? Do you want everyone to know?" A female voice, familiar and heartbreaking, replied, "It was Jessica." So, she hadn't resigned. She was still secretly meeting my husband, right at the company. "Don't worry, no one dares to come up to the 30th floor at this hour." Michael's voice held a hint of annoyance. "Have you caused enough trouble? Do you know how much trouble I went through to appease that old woman? Do you? That old woman," he was calling me that. "Caused trouble?" Jessica's voice became sharp. "Michael, that's rich coming from you. Who was careless enough to leave that photo in their wallet? Do you know how much I've been humiliated because of this? Now everyone in the company looks at me like a vixen. How can I even show my face at work? I told you to take a temporary break at home. When things calm down, I'll find a way to bring you back. That R&D position of yours, who else could fill it but you? Temporary for how long? A month? 2 months? Or a lifetime?" "Don't be unreasonable," Michael snapped. "Our big plan is about to succeed, and you're thinking of giving up over this small thing? Do you remember what our goal is? It's this entire evergreen pharmaceuticals company." My ears rang. So that photo wasn't just evidence of an affair, it had inadvertently exposed a much larger conspiracy. They weren't just trying to deceive me emotionally, they wanted to seize my father's life's work. I trembled and pressed play again. "Of course I remember." Jessica's voice softened, seemingly persuaded. "But your wife isn't as foolish as you think. I'm afraid she's starting to suspect something." "Suspect what?" Michael scoffed, a smile full of confidence and contempt in his voice. "You don't know how much she loves me. All I have to do is sweet-talk her a little, shed a few crocodile tears, and she'll believe me implicitly. She loves me so blindly, she'd hand over her entire fortune without a moment's hesitation. A pathetic, love-struck woman. That's why we have this opportunity." Pathetic, love-struck, that's what he thought of me, of the love I had given him. "So, what's the next step?" Jessica asked. "I'll continue to play the role of the repentant husband, and at the same time, I'll start telling her about the company's difficulties, about the pressure I'm under. I'll make her feel tired of the business, feel that she should step back and let me protect her. Gradually, I'll persuade her to transfer some of her shares to me, on the pretext of gaining more say on the board to protect her father's legacy." Sounds good. But what if she doesn't agree? A long silence. Then Michael's voice came, so cold it made me shiver. "If she doesn't agree, then we'll have to resort to Plan B." Plan B. Exactly. An accident. A small accident. For example, brake failure or a sudden heart attack due to overwork. Chloe has a history of mild heart problems. You know that. Just one shock at the right time, and everything will be resolved. Then, as her legal husband, I'll naturally inherit everything. I tore off the headphones and threw them on the table. I couldn't listen anymore. My entire body trembled, not from fear, but from rage. An extreme rage. A burning indignation that went to my very bones. They didn't just want to steal my assets, they wanted to kill me. My husband, with whom I shared a bed, my best friend, whom I trusted implicitly, they were a pair of venomous snakes secretly planning to end my life in the cruelest way possible. The luxurious hotel room suddenly felt as cold as an ice cave. I sat there, frozen in the darkness. Michael's words, "I'll naturally inherit everything," echoed repeatedly in my head. A will. Right, my will. If I died without a will, he, as my husband, would be the legal heir. And I knew he and Jessica had certainly thought of this. Perhaps they were just waiting for the right moment, waiting for me to sign some transfer agreement or for an accident to occur. A bitter smile formed on my lips. "Michael, Jessica, you have planned meticulously, but you have forgotten one thing. The prey you are hunting is not as weak and foolish as you imagine. I will not let you succeed. I will not only protect my assets, I must also protect my life. And I will make you pay for every malicious scheme, every wicked calculation. But to do that, I couldn't act alone. I needed an ally, someone smart enough, trustworthy enough, and powerful enough to confront them. Only one name came to mind, a person I should have turned to from the very beginning. The initial anger and fear gradually subsided, replaced by a chilling clarity. I couldn't just sit here trembling with fear. I had to act to stay one step ahead of them. I retrieved the recording pen and carefully placed it back in its original position in Michael's suit jacket. The play had to continue, and this third eye still had to perform its duty. Early the next morning, I left the hotel, not returning home, but driving straight to an old, stately mansion district in the city. This area was starkly different from the hustle and bustle of downtown. The atmosphere here was quiet, dignified, with ancient oak trees casting cool shadows. I stopped the car in front of a white villa with intricate wrought iron gates. This was the private residence and law office of Mr. Roberts. Attorney James Roberts, a name respected by anyone in the city's business circles. He was not only the best lawyer in corporate law but also my father's closest friend, the partner who had helped my father build Evergreen Pharmaceuticals from its difficult beginnings. After my father passed away, he had retired to become a senior legal advisor to the company. But I knew that for him, Evergreen Pharmaceuticals wasn't just a client, it was the dedication, the legacy of his deceased friend. Since I married Michael, Mr. Roberts had subtly warned me a few times to be careful. He said he didn't have a good feeling about this overly perfect and somewhat ambitious young man. But at that time, I was too immersed in love and ignored all his advice. Now, looking back, I realized how foolish I had been. The young secretary recognized me immediately. "Hello, Miss Anderson. Are you here to see Mr. Roberts? Do you have an appointment?" "No, but please tell him it's an urgent matter concerning the survival of Evergreen Pharmaceuticals." Hearing this, the secretary didn't dare delay and quickly went inside. A few seconds later, the heavy wooden door of the office opened and Mr. Roberts appeared. He was in his early 60s, his salt and pepper hair neatly combed. His face was resolute, his eyes still as sharp as ever. "Chloe, what's wrong? You seem distraught." I said nothing, just walked inside. When the office door closed, the strength I had forced myself to maintain for so long suddenly collapsed. I burst into tears, tears of bitterness, resentment, and fear. I handed him my phone with the audio file I had saved. Mr. Roberts silently put on the headphones. His face grew sterner with each passing moment. His bushy eyebrows furrowed, his hands clenched into fists on the table. When the recording ended, he took off the headphones. The air in the room felt thick. He said nothing, just stood up, walked to the window, and lit a cigarette, a habit he only indulged in when contemplating a very serious issue. "I was wrong." His voice was deep and hoarse. "I should have been more assertive in preventing this marriage. I underestimated their cunning." He turned to look at me, his eyes no longer reproachful, but filled with sorrow and a burning anger. "Chloe, don't be afraid. As long as I'm alive, no one will be able to touch you or steal Evergreen Pharmaceuticals. I promise you, and I promise my departed friend." His words were like a sedative, calming my turbulent soul. For the first time since discovering the truth, I felt I was not alone. I had a solid support system. "Now, the first thing we need to do," he extinguished his cigarette and returned to his desk, his seasoned lawyer's demeanor back in place, "is to neutralize their ace in the hole. Your will. Your will. Exactly. Under the law, if something unfortunate were to happen to you without a will, your primary legal heir would be your husband, Michael Johnson. That's why they want to act. We must create a new will immediately." He explained that we would draft a new will. It would stipulate that in the event of my untimely demise, all my assets and shares in Evergreen Pharmaceuticals would be transferred to a charitable foundation managed by him, not to Michael. This will would be legally notarized and a copy kept at the law firm. Most importantly, he emphasized, we must find a way for Michael to accidentally learn about the existence of this will. When he realizes that even if you die, he won't get a single dime, his accident plan will become meaningless. He'll have to switch to plan A, trying to trick you into transferring your shares. I nodded, understanding his intention. This was a strategy to cut off their escape route, eliminating their motive for murder. Once your life is safe, we'll begin our counterattack. Mr. Roberts looked at me, a sharp glint in his eyes. You said they want to trick you into signing share transfer documents, right? Good. We'll use their own trap against them, turning it into their downfall. A bold and intricate plan began to unfold. I would continue to play the role of the love-struck, vulnerable wife, appearing increasingly disheartened by the business. I would accidentally let Michael see the new will, lying that it was my father's dying wish, that I was doing it to protect his legacy. This would further convince Michael that I was naive and easily manipulated. Then, when he made his demand for share transfers, I will agree, but with conditions set by us. In this chess game, we won't just be defending, we will be actively attacking, Mr. Roberts concluded, his voice full of confidence. You only need to do one thing. Play your role perfectly. I'll handle everything else. Leaving Mr. Roberts's office, my heart felt firm again. The fear had vanished, replaced by determination and a hint of eagerness for the coming confrontation. Michael, Jessica, you have chosen the wrong opponent. In this play, I will not only be an actress, I will be the director, the one who decides the ending for everyone. On the way home, I passed a high-end jewelry store. I stopped the car and went inside. I needed a few props to make my play even more realistic. Michael and Jessica, you like deceit, don't you? All right, I'll show you what true acting artistry looks like. Friends, a counterplan has been drawn. A battle of wits is about to begin. Can Chloe play the role of a naive, love-struck wife perfectly? Will Michael and Jessica easily fall into the trap? This battle will have many unexpected twists. If you are also eagerly awaiting the upcoming confrontation, please share this video with your friends and family. Your sharing will be a warning to the deceitful and invaluable encouragement for stories of justice like this to be known more widely. The next day, I returned to the office with a completely different demeanor. Gone was the sharp, black business dress of the day before. I chose an elegant, cream-colored shift dress with light makeup and naturally flowing hair. I wanted to project the image of a woman who had found peace after the storm, a wife who had completely forgiven and trusted her husband. Stepping into the company, I smiled and greeted everyone, a gentle and somewhat weary smile. As I passed Jessica's office, where someone else now sat, I deliberately paused for a moment, my eyes holding a fleeting look of distant sadness. I wanted everyone to see that I was still affected by my best friend's betrayal, that I was a deeply emotional person. Michael saw me arrive, and he quickly rushed out to greet me, his face full of concern. "You're here? Why didn't you stay home another day to fully recover?" "I'm fine. Being alone at home is too sad," I replied, my voice weak. "Besides, there's so much work at the company, I can't leave everything to you." Throughout that day, I deliberately appeared distracted and unfocused in my work. I repeatedly called Michael into my office, asking him about trivial matters, things I could have easily decided on my own in a heartbeat before. I wanted him to see that I was gradually losing my sharpness, that I was beginning to depend on him. At lunchtime, I asked my secretary to order a lavish meal from a French restaurant, saying I wanted to celebrate that the storm had passed. During the meal in my office, I proactively poured wine for him. "Michael," I said, my eyes dreamily looking at him. What happened really scared me. I realized that work, money, nothing is as important as my family. I just want a peaceful life, with you by my side, that's enough. Michael's face lit up with joy upon hearing this. He took my hand, his voice full of emotion. "Chloe, I think so too. You've worked too hard. You should be living like a queen, protected and cherished by me. But Evergreen Pharmaceuticals is my father's life's work," I said, my voice a little hesitant. "I can't just abandon it." "Of course not," he quickly said, as if afraid I'd change my mind. "I didn't mean that. What I meant is, you can keep your position as CEO, but leave the headaches, the complex internal and external affairs, to me. You just need to do what you enjoy." "Really, Michael?" I looked up at him, my eyes sparkling with hope. "You won't mind?" Mind what? Taking care of my wife is my responsibility. He smiled, a smile I knew was full of calculation. My plan had begun to work. The greedy fish was slowly swimming closer to the tempting bait. A few days later, I took the next step. I accidentally left a file on my desk when I went out for lunch with a client. The file contained a copy of the new will that Mr. Roberts and I had prepared, along with some documents related to the charitable foundation. I knew for sure that with his suspicious and curious nature, Michael wouldn't pass up the opportunity to secretly look. And just as I predicted, when I returned, I noticed the file had been moved a few centimeters from its original position. A very small detail, but enough for me to know he had seen it. That evening, when we got home, he was very attentive, but I could sense a restlessness, a worry hidden behind his eyes. During dinner, he casually asked, "Chloe, I've noticed you've been reading a lot about charitable foundations lately." I pretended to be surprised. "How did you know?" "Oh, I just saw it on your desk," he quickly said. "Do you have any plans?" I sighed, putting a piece of food in his bowl. "It's nothing much, Michael. It's just that after everything that happened, I've been thinking a lot. My father, before he passed away, told me that if I ever felt tired and didn't want to carry the burden of evergreen pharmaceuticals anymore, I should donate most of my assets to charity as a way to accumulate good karma for him. I've also drawn up a will according to his wishes." My words were like a bucket of cold water poured over Michael's face. I saw his hand holding his chopsticks pause for a moment. "A will? Why? Why so suddenly?" "It's nothing, Michael," I smiled lightly. "Just a precaution. People say life and death are unpredictable. It's better to be prepared. Besides, I trust you. I know you'll always be by my side to take care of me, but I can't go against my father's dying wish." My explanation was both innocent and logical, leaving him no room for suspicion, but I knew his heart was churning. Plan B, his accident plan, had completely failed. Now, if anything happened to me, he wouldn't get a dime. My entire fortune would flow into the charitable foundation. He remained silent, his face pensive. He was thinking, recalculating his plan, and I knew he had only one path left: to accelerate Plan A to trick me into signing the share transfer papers while I was still alive. That night, I retrieved the recording pen. The content inside was even more dramatic than the last time. I heard him calling Jessica, his voice full of irritation and urgency. "Things have changed. She made a will. If she dies, we'll get nothing." "What? How can that be?" Jessica's voice was alarmed. "I don't know either. She said she's following her father's wishes. That foolish woman even now still believes the advice of a dead old man." Michael gnashed his teeth. "We can't wait any longer. We have to speed up the plan. I'll find a way to make her hate her job, to make her see that she can't run the company without me." "How?" "Your R&D department prepare a few ghost projects for me. Projects that sound very promising but are actually bottomless pits to burn money. I'll present them to her, persuade her to approve them. When those projects fail, causing losses for the company, she'll feel helpless and will naturally hand over power to me." "Okay, I can handle this." "Good, just make sure it's discreet. We must win this game." I turned off the recording, a cold smile again playing on my lips. "Ghost projects? Excellent. You want to set a trap for me. I'll let you have your way. I will step into that trap myself, but when I walk out, the one trapped won't be me." I took out the prop I had bought from the jewelry store the other day. It was a stunning sapphire-faced diamond ring, but it wasn't just a normal ring. The sapphire face was actually a miniature camera, capable of high-resolution video and audio recording. "Michael, Jessica, I have prepared a grand stage for you. Go ahead and perform. Unleash your dirtiest schemes." I will sit in the front row, silently recording everything and waiting for opening night. My play with Michael continued flawlessly. In front of everyone, we were a devoted couple who had just overcome a storm, our love growing stronger. He picked me up from work, prepared romantic dinners, and spoke sweet words. And I perfectly played the role of a wife, gradually letting go of her career burdens to lean on her husband's strong shoulder. I often complained about work pressures, about frustrating financial figures, about endless meetings. "You're right, Michael," I would say. leaning my head on his shoulder every evening, my voice weary. I'm really not cut out for the business world. I just want to be a normal woman, staying home and taking care of you. Each time I said this, Michael's eyes would flash with a triumphant glint. He would quickly comfort me. Don't worry, I'm here. I'll take care of everything at the company. You just need to be beautiful and happy. He had no idea that while he was lost in self-satisfaction, the sapphire ring on my finger was silently recording everything. His every word, every gesture, every expression was captured clearly. And then, just as I predicted, Jessica began to act. A week later, during the weekly briefing meeting, she, despite having resigned, unexpectedly reappeared. Michael explained to everyone that because the project to develop a new line of herbal products was entering a critical phase, and Jessica was the most knowledgeable person, he had specifically invited her back as a project consultant to complete the work. I sat in the chair, silently observing. The other department heads whispered a little, but with Michael's backing and my silence, no one dared to object. I knew this was when they would start releasing the bait. Jessica, in her role as a consultant, eloquently presented a new project called Evergreen Wellness. She painted a beautiful vision, a completely new line of functional products extracted from a rare herb found in the Pacific Northwest, capable of curing all ailments. She presented research data and impressive projected growth charts. This will be a revolution in the functional pharmaceutical industry, she concluded confidently. As long as we invest heavily in the initial phase to build cultivation areas and extraction facilities, I am confident that within 2 years, Evergreen Wellness will bring 5 to 10 times the profit. I listened, gently turning the ring on my finger. The plan sounded appealing, but with the experience and keen insight honed by my father, I immediately recognized the illogical points. The initial capital investment was too large, the payback period too long, and the figures she presented were unrealistically optimistic. This was the bottomless pit they had prepared for me. Michael immediately spoke in support. I completely agree with consultant Jessica Davis's opinion. This is a golden opportunity we cannot miss. Chloe, what do you think? He turned to me, his eyes full of anticipation. Everyone in the meeting room turned their gaze towards me. They were waiting for the CEO's decision. I pretended to hesitate, furrowing my brow in thought for a long moment. I looked at the detailed plan Jessica had prepared. Everything was done very professionally. It was hard to find flaws if only glancing through it. I think this project has a lot of potential, I said, my voice a little hesitant. But the initial capital investment seems a bit large. Is it too risky? High risk means high reward, honey, Michael quickly persuaded. Just trust me. With my experience and Jessica's talent, we will definitely succeed. Don't worry about the numbers anymore. Just leave it to me. I looked at him, then at Jessica. Both were looking at me with expectant eyes, an unspoken anticipation. I knew if I refused, they would find another way. The best way was to let them carry out their plan. That way, they would fully expose their true colors. All right then, I sighed, feigning complete persuasion. If you're so confident, I'll trust you. We'll go ahead with this project. A barely concealed joy flashed across Michael's and Jessica's faces. They looked at each other, exchanging a triumphant glance they thought no one saw, but I saw it. The miniature camera on my lapel pin saw everything. Immediately after the meeting, I returned to my office alone. The first thing I did was copy the video from the ring. The video clearly recorded the entire meeting's proceedings, from Jessica's presentation and Michael's support to their triumphant glances. But that wasn't enough. I needed more concrete evidence that this was a ghost project. I called Mr. Roberts. Mr. Roberts, I need your help with something. Please have someone investigate a specific herb in the Pacific Northwest and the feasibility of this Evergreen Wellness project. I need the results as soon as possible. Mr. Roberts didn't ask many questions, just replied curtly, "Don't worry, Chloe, I'll take care of it." In the following days, Michael and Jessica were incredibly busy. They constantly held meetings, presenting me with a flurry of documents and contracts related to the project. Land lease agreements, equipment purchase contracts, contracts with plant seed suppliers. Everything was subtly faked. I, in my role as a puppet CEO, simply nodded and signed. Each time I put pen to paper, Michael looked at me with tender eyes, constantly praising me. "My wife is so good, just trust me, everything will be fine." He had no idea that before signing any document, I used my ring to record the entire content. And every evening, I sent those copies to Mr. Roberts for safekeeping. I was personally handing over the company's assets to them, but at the same time, I was also personally collecting undeniable evidence to put them behind bars. A week later, Mr. Roberts called me. "Chloe, I have the results. The herb they mentioned does exist, but," he paused for a moment, "it's a poisonous plant with no medicinal properties whatsoever. In fact, if used incorrectly, it can be lethal. And all the partner companies they presented are shell companies, just formed a few weeks ago." I tightened my grip on the phone. So it was clear. This wasn't just a money-burning scheme, it was a deeply malicious plan. If this product were manufactured and released to the market, the consequences would be unimaginable. It would not only destroy Evergreen Pharmaceuticals' finances, but also the reputation and honor my father had built his entire life. It could even endanger consumers' lives. "Michael, Jessica, you are not just greedy, you are inhumane." At that same moment, Michael walked into my office, a familiar fake smile still on his lips. "Darling, everything is progressing very well. I think it's time for us to make a bigger change for the project to proceed smoothly." I knew the moment I had been waiting for had finally arrived. The cunning fox was no longer patient enough. I looked up, pretending to break away from the papers I was reviewing, and offered Michael a somewhat weary smile. "A big change? What do you mean?" He walked over, came behind my chair, and placed his hands on my shoulders, beginning his affectionate massage. His fingers glided over my shoulders, a gesture I used to crave, but now it only filled me with disgust. "You see," he began, his voice deep and persuasive, "the Evergreen Wellness Project is a strategic project. It will determine the future of Evergreen Pharmaceuticals. But currently, there are some issues arising." "What issues, Michael?" I asked, feigning concern. "A few board members, especially the conservative ones aligned with Mr. Roberts, they're not very supportive of this project. They think it's too risky. Every time I want to speed up progress, want to release a large sum of money, they find ways to delay, making me present and explain everything." He let out a deep, exasperated sigh. "I'm just the head of sales. My voice doesn't carry enough weight. At this rate, we'll miss our golden opportunity." He was half right. Mr. Roberts, according to our plan, was indeed making things difficult. He constantly demanded Michael present detailed expenditure reports and asked Jessica to provide more scientific evidence about the miraculous properties of that herb. All of this was to prolong the process and to make Michael more impatient, more desperate. "So, what do we do now, Michael?" I turned my chair to face him, my eyes full of confusion and trust. "Should I talk to them?" "No, no need," Michael quickly waved his hand. "You're tired. I don't want you to worry anymore. I already have a plan. I just don't know if you'll agree." He hesitated, feigning extreme difficulty. "Just tell me, Michael. As long as it's good for the company, for my father's legacy, I'll do it." My words were like a stimulant, making his eyes light up. He knelt before me, taking both my hands, beginning the main act. "Chloe, for me to have full decision-making power, to silence all criticism, and move the project forward as quickly as possible, I need an official title. I need real authority." "Real authority?" "Yes." He looked deep into my eyes. "I want you to sign a temporary proxy agreement, granting me the authority to manage the company for 6 months. During those 6 months, I will handle everything for you, from internal affairs to external relations. You just need to be by my side, a strong pillar of support. That's enough. After 6 months, when the project is on track, I promise I'll return everything to you. Then, whether you want to continue running the company or retire completely, I will respect your decision." Finally, the fox had shown its tail. Temporary proxy. 6 months. The words sounded beautiful, but I knew that once that paper was signed, there would be no returning anything. 6 months was more than enough time for him and Jessica to drain the company, transfer all assets out, and leave me with an empty shell. I remained silent, pretending to think. The sapphire ring on my finger was still quietly doing its job, recording every facial expression, every word, every calculating gesture of the man kneeling before me. Seeing my hesitation, Michael pressed on. "Don't you trust me, Chloe? I'm doing all of this only for your good, for Evergreen Pharmaceuticals. I don't want to see you struggle and get tired anymore. I trust you," I said, my voice trembling. "But this is huge. Handing over the entire company to you, I'm afraid people will talk, will criticize you." "I'm not afraid," he interrupted, his voice resolute. "I'm not afraid of people calling me ambitious or power-hungry. I'm only afraid of you suffering. As long as you trust me, I don't care what the rest of the world says." A sweet, touching lie. He had hit upon the psychology of a wife who loved her husband and wanted to protect him from gossip. But I still feigned concern. "Isn't that too sudden? What will the other board members think?" Then, Michael seemed to have already prepared for this scenario. "We'll make everything legitimate. We won't sign it secretly. Instead, I want you to call an extraordinary board meeting next week." "A board meeting?" "Exactly," he nodded, his face full of confidence. "In that meeting, in front of everyone, you will officially announce this decision. You will say that due to your health and your desire to step back and focus on family, you have decided to temporarily entrust the management power to me. That way, no one can object. They will only see the absolute trust you place in your husband. They will have to admire our love." What a perfect plan. He didn't just want power, he wanted it in the most glorious, most legitimate way. He wanted to turn me into a tool to glorify himself, to prove he was a talented husband, deeply loved and trusted by his wife. I looked at him for a long moment, then slowly nodded, flashing a radiant smile, a smile of resignation and happiness. "Okay, I'll do as you say. I'll let the whole world know how talented and trustworthy my husband is." Michael was so overjoyed, he embraced me tightly, lifting me and spinning me around. "Chloe, you're amazing. I love you." I wrapped my arms around his neck, resting my head on his shoulder, but my eyes gazed out the window, cold and sharp. "Michael, Jessica, the final stage is set, and I promise this curtain call will be spectacular. It will be a play you two will never have the chance to see again in your lives. Do you see it? The trap has been perfectly laid, and the prey is utterly triumphant, without a shred of suspicion. That extraordinary board meeting will surely be a gripping performance. Are you curious to know what Chloe and Mr. Roberts have prepared for this spectacular reveal? If so, don't forget to hit the subscribe button for echoes of the past right now. Because when you subscribe, you won't just be an audience member, but a companion on my journey through the most tense moments to witness justice being served. Subscribe now so you don't miss the upcoming climax. A week flew by in the blink of an eye. For Michael and Jessica, it must have been a week filled with eagerness and anticipation. For me, it was a week of meticulous preparation and a frightening calm. Mr. Roberts and I worked tirelessly. All evidence, from audio files and videos to documents about the ghost projects, was systematically organized. Mr. Roberts, with his experience as a seasoned lawyer, mapped out every step, anticipating every possible outcome. The day of the extraordinary board meeting finally arrived. The sky over the city that day was clear and cloudless, but the atmosphere inside Evergreen Pharmaceuticals' largest meeting room was suffocating. All board members, major shareholders, and key department heads were present. They sat around the polished ebony oval conference table. Everyone's face showed seriousness and curiosity. They didn't understand why I had abruptly called such an urgent meeting and why its agenda involved delegating management authority. I sat at the head of the table, the highest, most powerful seat. Today, I didn't choose my usual elegant dresses. I wore a custom-tailored suit, a deep wine red, a color of power, decisiveness, and also danger. My hair was neatly styled in a high bun, revealing a smart forehead and sharply made-up eyes. I wanted my image today to be truly different, truly strong. Opposite me, across the table, sat Michael. He also wore a sophisticated gray suit, his tie perfectly adjusted. His face couldn't hide his triumph. His eyes looked at me with great affection and pride, but I knew deep within them greed was cheering. Sitting next to him, as a project consultant, was Jessica. She wore a discreet navy blue business dress, her face lightly made up, appearing very professional and humble. Both of them, a deceitful pair, were performing a perfect play in front of the most powerful people in the company. The meeting began. I stood up and spoke. My voice today was clear, articulate, and full of inner strength, without the weakness and weariness of previous days. Distinguished guests, thank you all for taking the time to attend today's extraordinary meeting. The reason I convened this meeting, as stated in the announcement, is to disclose an important decision, a decision that will greatly impact the future of Evergreen Pharmaceuticals. The meeting room fell silent, all eyes fixed on me. I took a deep breath and then turned to look at Michael, flashing a very bright smile. As you all know, over the past period, our company has faced considerable challenges, both internally and externally. In our most difficult moments, I have been incredibly fortunate to have a talented husband, a dedicated colleague who has always been by my side, sharing every burden. That person is Mr. Michael Johnson, our head of sales. I gestured towards him, and everyone applauded. Michael stood up, bowing gracefully. His face beamed with happiness. He was savoring the moment of honor. I continued, my voice starting to thicken slightly. But truthfully, after all the upheavals, I feel utterly exhausted. My health no longer allows me to bear such a heavy responsibility. I've realized that a woman's true place, perhaps, is still behind the scenes, providing steadfast support for her man. My words made the board members, especially the older ones, nod in approval. They thought I was a woman who was both capable and reasonable. Therefore, I looked directly into Michael's eyes, my gaze filled with love and trust. After many sleepless nights, I have reached a decision. Today, in front of everyone present, I, Chloe Anderson, CEO of Evergreen Pharmaceuticals, hereby officially and temporarily delegate full management authority of the entire company to my husband, Mr. Praz, Michael Johnson, for a period of 6 months. My statement was like a bomb dropped in the middle of the meeting room. Everyone was stunned, surprised. Mr. Roberts, who had been sitting silently at the end of the table, also showed extreme surprise and objection. "Chloe, what are you saying?" He shot up from his seat. "Do you know what you're doing? Handing over your father's entire legacy to him? Are you insane?" Michael immediately stood up to defend me. "Mr. Roberts, please respect my wife's decision. This is her heartfelt wish. I promise I will not betray this trust." I quickly waved my hand, trying to reassure Mr. Roberts. "Mr. Roberts, please calm down. This is my decision. I have thought it through very carefully. I trust Michael implicitly." The brief argument between Mr. Roberts and Michael only made my decision seem more genuine. Everyone believed this was entirely my will, without any coercion. After having seemingly convinced the board, I gestured to my secretary. She brought out a prepared set of documents and placed them in front of me. The management proxy agreement. "To ensure clarity and transparency, we will sign the agreement right here," I said. Michael could barely hide his triumphant smile. He looked at Jessica, and they exchanged a victorious glance that they thought no one saw. But I saw it. The miniature camera on my lapel pin saw everything. I picked up my pen, a gold-plated Parker fountain pen, the first gift my father gave me when I entered college. I uncapped the pen. The entire room held its breath. Michael leaned forward. His eyes were fixed on the tip of my pen, waiting for the historic moment, the moment he would officially become the owner of Evergreen Pharmaceuticals. I smiled at him, a truly gentle smile, then slowly lowered the pen to the white paper. The tip of my pen lightly touched the surface of the paper. The meeting room was so silent I could even hear Michael's dry gulp from across the table. His eyes gleamed, the eyes of a predator about to seize its plump prey. He had been waiting for this moment for far too long. But I didn't sign. Instead of writing my name, I just drew a small circle on the paper. Then I slowly looked up. The gentle smile on my lips vanished. replaced by a cold, sarcastic one. I looked straight into Michael's eyes. "Are you very disappointed, my dear husband?" My question, along with my completely changed smile and gaze, stunned Michael. The smile on his face froze. He looked at me, then down at the contract, his face clearly bewildered. "Chloe, what are you talking about?" Not just him, everyone in the meeting room was bewildered. They didn't understand what was happening. My play had changed too abruptly. I didn't answer him. I simply and leisurely capped the pen, placed it on the table, and then signaled to Mr. Roberts. Mr. Roberts, who had been sitting silently with a look of indignation until now, stood up, his demeanor unusually dignified. He said nothing, just took a remote control from his briefcase and pressed a button. Immediately, the giant projection screen behind me, which had been displaying the Evergreen Pharmaceuticals logo, flickered off and then came back on. But this time, the image that appeared was not dry business charts. It was a video clip. The video was shot from a very low angle, precisely from my sapphire ring. The first image that appeared was Michael's face, kneeling before me in my office, his face full of earnestness. His voice resonated clearly. "I want you to sign a temporary proxy agreement, granting me the authority to manage the company for 6 months. The meeting room began to buzz. Michael's face turned ashen. He jumped up, pointing at the screen, stammering, "What? What is this? Chloe, you?" The video continued. This time, it was footage from last week's briefing meeting. Jessica was eloquently presenting the Evergreen Wellness Project, followed by Michael's enthusiastic support. And then, the triumphant glances they exchanged, thinking I had fallen into their trap. Where is this from? Why are these videos playing? An elderly shareholder spoke, his voice full of astonishment. I stood up, arms crossed, my voice cold and resolute echoing through the meeting room. "Distinguished guests, this is what has truly been happening behind our backs. This is the true face of the husband I trusted implicitly, and his highly talented project consultant." Michael and Jessica were completely frozen now, their faces utterly bloodless. They looked at me as if I were a monster. But the best act is yet to come. "Perhaps you think these are just internal conflicts, typical power grabs," I said, my voice full of sarcasm. But no, the truth is far more horrifying. I signaled to Mr. Roberts again. An audio file was played. This time, it was the sound from the Mont Blanc pen. "We can't wait any longer. We have to speed up the plan. I'll find a way to make her hate her job." Michael's and Jessica's voices, discussing creating ghost projects to drain the company, echoed clearly. "If she doesn't agree, then we'll have to resort to Plan B." Plan B? Exactly. An accident. A small accident. For example, brake failure or a sudden heart attack. At this, the meeting room erupted. Everyone stood up, shouts and furious curses directed at Michael and Jessica. They couldn't believe that the people they had always respected could conceal such a cruel and inhuman conspiracy. "Slander! It's all slander! The audio is edited!" Michael shouted in desperation, trying to deny his guilt. "Edited?" Mr. Roberts finally spoke, his voice carrying the authority of a legal professional. "Mr. Johnson, all these audio and video files have been submitted to forensic experts. They are entirely original, with no signs of tampering whatsoever, and the forensic report is right here on my desk." He held up a red-stamped document. Michael saw it. His entire body went limp, and he slumped into his chair. He knew all avenues of denial had been blocked. Jessica could no longer stand. She sank to the floor, covering her face with her hands, sobbing uncontrollably. Her career, her reputation, the bright future she had always dreamed of, all shattered in a matter of minutes. I stepped out from the head of the table and slowly walked towards them. I stopped in front of Michael, who was slumped over the table, his shoulders shaking. "Michael," I said, my voice strangely calm, "your play was excellent. Your acting was truly superb. But you forgot one thing." He slowly lifted his head, his bloodshot eyes looking at me, filled with hatred and despair. "That in a play, the scriptwriter and the director are the ones who decide the ending." I smirked, the smile of a victor. "And in this play, the director is me." The moment I finished speaking, the meeting room doors burst open. 2 lines of police officers in uniform, their faces stern, entered in unison. The lead officer, a captain, held up arrest warrants in front of Michael and Jessica. "Mr. Michael Johnson, Miss Jessica Davis, you are both under arrest for investigation into fraud, embezzlement, and organized conspiracy to commit murder. Please come with us to the station." Everything happened so quickly, so unexpectedly. Michael and Jessica, before they could even fully comprehend what was happening, were approached by 2 police officers and handcuffed. The cold click of the handcuffs echoed in the meeting room, putting a definitive end to everything. The cold click of the handcuffs echoed in the silent space of the meeting room. It was the sharpest, most decisive sound, marking the end of Michael and Jessica's careers, reputations, and futures. Michael stared at his handcuffed hands, his face alternating between white and green. He suddenly looked up at me. In his eyes, there was no longer pleading or remorse, only intense hatred, the hatred of a cornered wild animal. "Chloe, you set me up, you evil woman," he roared, struggling but held firmly by 2 police officers. I just stood there, silently watching him, my eyes unblinking. Evil? Compared to the accident plan he had prepared for me, compared to his ruthless conspiracy to steal both my life and my assets, what I did today was nothing. I was simply seeking justice for myself in a way the law allowed. Jessica, meanwhile, was completely shattered. She no longer cried out, just sat slumped on the floor. Her slender figure in the elegant business dress now looked utterly pathetic. Her eyes stared blankly into space. Perhaps she still couldn't believe that the castle of dreams she and Michael had painstakingly built with deceit and conspiracy could collapse so quickly. As they were escorted past me by the police, Michael suddenly stopped. He leaned in close, his voice seething through clenched teeth, full of menace. "Don't get too smug. You think this is over? I won't let you rest easy." I just smirked, a look of contempt on my face. "I'll be waiting. But I'm afraid you won't get that chance, Michael. Use your time in prison to reflect on what you've done." They were led away, leaving behind a chaotic meeting room filled with incessant whispers and murmurs. The board members and shareholders, after their initial shock, now looked at me with completely different eyes, no longer pity for a heartbroken wife, but respect, even a hint of fear, for a shrewd, decisive, and somewhat ruthless female leader. Mr. Roberts walked up beside me, patting my shoulder. "You did well, Chloe. Very courageous. Thank you, Mr. Roberts. I couldn't have done it alone without you." The meeting then quickly resumed, but with a completely different atmosphere. I, as CEO, stepped forward to reassure everyone. "Distinguished guests, I know everyone is very unsettled right now, but I want to assure you that Evergreen Pharmaceuticals will not collapse because of the departure of these 2 rotten apples. On the contrary, this is an opportunity for us to cleanse ourselves, to remove the tumors, and rebuild a cleaner, stronger Evergreen Pharmaceuticals. I announced that I would review all projects, especially the Evergreen Wellness Project. I pledged to recover all damages caused by Michael and Jessica and to return all company operations to a transparent path. My resolute words and decisive actions quickly regained everyone's trust. The biggest personnel storm in Evergreen Pharmaceuticals' history had passed, leaving behind losses but also opening a new chapter, an opportunity for rebirth. News of the sensational arrests at Evergreen Pharmaceuticals spread like wildfire. Major newspapers reported on the case of the CEO betrayed by her husband and best friend, who conspired to commit murder, becoming one of the hottest and most discussed topics for a long time. The evidence I presented at the meeting was widely circulated, exposing the full, true faces of the deceitful couple. Public opinion, initially skeptical, now fully turned to support and admire me. At the investigation agency, faced with undeniable evidence, Michael and Jessica could not remain obstinate for long. They began blaming each other. Michael claimed that all plans were instigated by Jessica, and that he only acted recklessly because he loved her too much. Jessica, meanwhile, cried, saying she was merely a pawn in Michael's hands, exploited both emotionally and professionally by him. Their true faces when confronted with danger were utterly contemptible. The passionate love they once displayed now only remained as selfishness and a desire to push blame onto the other to save themselves. But the net of justice, though wide, lets few escape. For charges of organized fraud, embezzlement, and especially conspiracy to commit murder, they faced a very long sentence, a sentence that would bury their youth and future behind bars. A few days later, I received a call from an unknown number. It was Michael's mother. Her voice on the phone was no longer sweet as before, but full of pleading and tears. "Chloe, I beg you. Please give my son a chance at life. He was foolish, he wronged you, but he's my only child. I beg you, please drop the lawsuit. Our family will compensate you for everything." I listened in silence as she finished, feeling no sympathy in my heart. "Ma'am," I said, my voice cold, "when your son planned an accident for me, did you think about giving me a chance at life? When your entire family conspired to seize my assets, did you think about the words, 'forgive'? Everything is out of my hands now. Let the law judge." With that, I hung up. The score was settled. My forgiveness could not extend to those without humanity. They had to pay the price for their crimes themselves. Everything seemed to have ended. The wicked had been punished, justice had been served, but I knew my battle was not over. Seeking justice was only the first step. The next, and most important step, was to revive Evergreen Pharmaceuticals, to rebuild it from the ashes of betrayal. Friends, the net of justice has been cast, and the wicked have been caught. But is this truly the end for Chloe's life and Evergreen Pharmaceuticals' future? Behind bars, will the betrayers accept defeat? Many questions remain unanswered. If you share these thoughts, please leave a comment below the video. Share your feelings, your predictions for the journey ahead. Each of your comments is a valuable perspective, making our story more multifaceted and profound. After the storm, the sky didn't immediately turn clear. Evergreen Pharmaceuticals at this time was like a large ship that had just weathered a fierce hurricane. Though it hadn't sunk, its hull was scarred, its mast askew, and it needed a skilled captain to steer it back on course. And that captain was none other than me. The months that followed were a period of relentless work. I practically ate and slept at the company. The first and most urgent task was to deal with the aftermath of the Evergreen Wellness Project. Tens of millions of dollars had been dispersed into shell companies and fraudulent contracts set up by Michael and Jessica. It was a severe financial wound for Evergreen Pharmaceuticals. Along with Mr. Roberts and the legal team, we worked with banks to freeze related accounts and sued the shell companies to try to recover every possible dollar. It was a highly complex and costly legal battle, but I refused to give up. Every dollar recovered was not just financially significant, it was a reaffirmation of justice. In addition, I had to face a crisis of confidence from within the company itself. The incident involving Michael and Jessica, two senior executives, had caused a great shock. Employees were confused and worried about the company's future and their own. Rumors and suspicions began to spread. I decided to hold a direct dialogue with all employees, an unprecedented event at Evergreen Pharmaceuticals. I stood before hundreds of people, not as a distant CEO, but as a colleague, a captain facing a storm. I didn't hide the difficulties. I spoke truthfully about the losses the company was suffering, about the challenges we were about to face. But I also spoke about my belief, my determination to revive this ship. "I know many of you are worried," I said, my voice echoing through the auditorium, "but I want you to look at me. I, who was once deceived, betrayed by the very people I trusted most, am still standing here. I did not fall, and Evergreen Pharmaceuticals will not fall. Evergreen Pharmaceuticals is my father's life's work and the second home for all of us. This home is hurting, and it needs us, all of us, to work together to repair and rebuild it. I cannot do it alone. I need your trust, your unity, and the effort of each and every one of you." My sincere words seemed to touch everyone's hearts. The initial silence was replaced by applause, timid at first, but then growing louder. I knew I had successfully begun to unite the people of Evergreen Pharmaceuticals. In the time that followed, I made strong reforms. I completely abolished the old R&D department, headed by Jessica, a department that had been corrupted into a tool for draining the company. Instead, I established a new pharmaceutical research institute, inviting leading experts and scientists. With a transparent and sustainable development strategy,